There's 60 participants. What is that? Why is this not working? Hey everybody. Sorry, my mouse isn't working and I've been trying to adjust the screen here. It's not working. Can't seem to find you. There we go. I'm just gonna mute you guys. You guys, if you wanna. There we go.
Hey, Rosie.
Hey.
How's everybody doing?
Good.
Awesome.
Oh no, now my audio isn't working.
Oh, no. It's weird. I don't have an option for video. It's just audio.
I don't either.
You said you don't have an option for video? We can see you, or I can see you.
Well, hold on.
Oh, it's the
Sorry, Jay, about the, let's see if I can.
Yeah, I mean, it was, I didn't know what to do because like things kept going in and out and everything. And I just, and for some reason, I'm not visible. But that's okay. I have makeup on today.
Well, yeah, we can see you. You just can't see yourself, and I can't.
I can't see you guys.
Yeah, I
Nope.
don't see my option for audio. It's weird. I mean, for video. So, yeah. I like your space though, Rosie.
Oh, thanks. I got it.
It doesn't.
Threw everything out in the yard.
Oh, cool. Is that?
I had these pads, and I was actually going to turn one of the rooms in the studio into a sound room, and I never had the chance, and so we just threw it up in here.
So you did it at? Are you at home?
Yeah.
Okay, you turned one of your rooms at home into that space. I mean, we always see you at the
shed. It was actually a storage shed.
Oh, that's cool.
And I threw everything that was in storage out.
Oh, Lord. That's cool. Yeah, I love
Rosie, I
that.
can see you, but I can't see anybody else.
And I can't see myself either. Rosie, I think I'm gonna try and log off and try again. Maybe I'll update.
It's a webinar. It's designed to be something else. I can bring everybody on, but then I have to, when Rick comes on, then I have to put everybody back as part of the webinar. It's just structured differently.
Oh, okay. Okay. I've done these
because I was on a Zoom class. Oops. I was on a Zoom class earlier this afternoon, and I think Zoom is like overloaded because everybody's using it, and it kept crashing, and I kept having to log back into it. And it was really frustrating. And so when I was recognized in that class, I was like crying, and I was like, I couldn't get it all.
Oh no.
Yeah. But yeah, Rosie, you've done this. As I look at it, I've been on Zoom classes with Backstage, and some of them don't show any of the people's faces. So you must have set it up like that, where all we're doing is looking at him.
So when we were Zoom bombed, because it was, one of Rick's calls.
Yeah.
I just changed the whole structure of everything, and this was
you did
right after. So
okay,
that's what I did with this, but it allows me to put everybody.
The audio. You know what? I'm going to hop off and come back on.
Okay. I'm just gonna change my setting here because I can barely hear you guys.
Oh no. Okay.
So my TV that was in the studio, it's not now in here, and so I see everybody on this big 42
That's
inch.
cool. Did you get rid of San Bruno space?
Yeah, I had to let it go.
Okay.
He wasn't willing to, well, I'm
I
sure
got
he
you.
would have been okay for a month, but I don't think he would have been okay for,
Oh, I got you for paying on it.
yeah, there was a
I
lot
got
going
you.
on. We
Yeah,
had,
I can
so
imagine.
it was fine.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. But you do have this other facility where you do stuff. I've never been to it,
Oh,
but
you never been to the Light Grid studio?
no, I've never. I just knew that you had something else going on, but I never signed up for a class or anything that has been there.
Oh, well,
Is that
yeah,
you
so
still?
when all, we go back
Yeah,
to somewhat normal and we're able to produce classes in
right.
person, we'll be holding them at the Light Grid or Meets the Eye studio.
Oh, okay. There's another place too.
They're both sound stages and they're in the same building. It's just
Okay,
sometimes some production studios use one sound stage,
gotcha.
the other one's available.
Okay, I gotcha. Do you have to
So
do like a monthly rent on that, or you just tell them what your schedule is and you just reserve it for those classes and events?
I'm able to come in
Okay.
during specific times. So in the
Oh,
beginning
good.
of the month,
Mm-hmm.
I'm able to utilize it. But if it's like an event like somewhere later down, it might
Yeah.
conflict with
Okay.
a production, so I won't be able to. But I'm trying to stick within like a few days a month.
Yeah.
That's
Sounds
it.
good.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
But no office, just class setting.
Yeah.
I can't find my audio. Okay, it says computer audio, but it won't allow me to change to TV audio. Let's see. Strange.
Oh. Oh.
So did everybody get a chance to turn in their homework? Oh, hi, Rick. Oh, you're muted. Unmute. There you are.
Hey, everybody. Is everyone doing good?
Yes, doing
will-
fine.
Oh, good. I think I just did a Latino Thought Makers show, so I think it did really well. It was amazing. I was looking at this Facebook, and it's funny. It's such a weird time because when we talk about writing, everyone's writing all the time. I mean, I'm looking at people writing these Facebook things. They're like a good strong paragraph, or more. Some are like basically a monologue. So it just struck me before the class of how we do write all the time. We're constantly writing, we're constantly reading, we're constantly involved in this communication. That's why what you're doing is important. I read Giovanni um, piece. I thought it was really good, which is great because I'll tell you, whenever I ever gave you guys notes on something, it normally is only, as a director, well, a lot of times people, like an actor might go, you didn't give me any notes because there wasn't a note to give you. It was fine. Sometimes people will write something good and they're almost surprised by it. But like I said, how the spirit of writing is that we're a wire and we hear a voice and it goes through us and it goes out. We get I think Jackie in the last show I did said a divine download. And there's even theories in communication that we send this message out, and the receiver interprets it. That's what they're doing. They're interpreting it. So when you're writing, when you may write it down, it's going to be interpreted later. And that's part of the writing experience, their interpretation. Do they understand it? Do they feel they've got it? Is it changing? All those kind of things. So that's why what I'm glad about this class is that merely the act of writing, and if you write something every day, it's an exercise. And all that act of writing is to get rid of yourself, to allow yourself almost in a meditative state, to allow inspiration to happen through you and to come up on the page. If that makes sense. And I'll always raise your hand or if you ever have a question during any part of this. How did you guys like the exercise? Anyone?
Is everybody unmuted? Let me unmute people. I think there's a few. Tony is on. Let me unmute. I think he had a question. Tony?
Tony Quintero.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let me just put him on. And if you guys have a question, just, I'm gonna unmute all of you, but just raise your hand before interrupting somebody else. And then I'll just bring you on as a panelist if you wanna chit chat about your question. So Tony, where'd you go? There you are.
Am I muted or unmuted right now?
You're unmuted right now, Tony.
Great, okay. And video is not working. All right. Yeah, I just want. Are you there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Tony, I can hear you.
Okay, good, Rick. Yeah. I just had. It was hard for me to learn this writer duet, but I just had to wrestle through it, and I just made some mistakes. Like I forgot to save part of it. Sent you half of it. And sent
Nice.
you half now. But
Yeah.
but I thought it was challenging and doing it first time, especially using writer duet.
Yeah, it's, you know, with Writer Duet and all those programs, basically writing programs are Final Draft, you know, Writer Duet's one. There's other programs that people use for writing. It just speeds it up a little bit. Once you get used to it, it's very simple. You're typing and you go character, bam, character, dialogue underneath it. Okay, action over here. You know, cut to, you know, new heading, date, time, like those things I just told you guys. It almost becomes like second nature. You get very used to it, and so for a lot of times writers, it's hard not to write that. For dialogue, I'll a lot of times do it longhand. I'll just sit there and write it on a piece of paper if something inspires me, which I encourage people to do. When you're putting it into a screenplay form or a script form, whether it's half hour, 1 hour, you know, screenplay, all these different things, the structure is normally based on time. So say a half hour is like 22 minutes. 1 hour is normally 44, 45 minutes. Then you've got adding new things like the Netflix shows. You know, they're not as quite as structured as, because there's no commercial breaks. There's none. So it's subscriber based. So all these motivations of how, or things that happen with the media, it's either subscriber based. So that means I pay for it in Netflix or whatever it is, or it's free, but I'm paying it by watching the commercials during those shows. So those are normally the big things, is just timing. It's timing is wrapped all the way to what entertainment has been, which is basically to sell something in the last 50 odd years or 100 years. You know, it really was used to sell, you know, and that goes radio, it goes everything else. It's you know, Marshall McLuhan said the medium is the message, basically. And it takes a while to understand that. It's basically, it says the message is not important. It's how it's delivered is important. You have the medium of the screenplay or the half hour play or the 1 hour, or even if you go to a stage format. If you look at Writer Duet, it actually will say, you know, what structure. So you go screenplay. Okay, now you understand it's going to come in a screenplay structure. So that's why I like that program, because it's helpful. I mean, I use Final Draft, but most of the time with writing, it's a struggle, you know, for a lot of times. You know, there's a difference between the professional act of writing. So you have a deadline, you have someone paying you, you have all these different things. The struggle is there, but it's no different than the struggle of someone who says, I want to write something, and you have an empty blank piece of paper in front of you. You have to fill that paper up. And that means something here goes through here and ends up in these fingers to write or type or to put it out. That's the nature of it. So I know, Tony, you may go, well, this is difficult. It's really gets simpler and simpler and simpler. And the reason I think it's important to understand the structure of screenplays and the structure of, you know, half hours and stuff like that is eventually you're going to want to put your work in a professional readable format that people can follow. And whether you are going to be a full-time writer or not, or an actor or whatever, the art of writing and the understanding of writing will help you with everything. You know, you can, I love those programs where they, on Facebook, they'll have a scene from The Godfather, and underneath it is the actual script. So you're watching the scene and you're seeing the script. That's really helpful for a lot of people. And I'm looking for ways to not only demystify it, but take away the fear of it. There's a lot of fear wrapped in writing. You know, I was flunked as a child. You know, I had special issues in terms of education. So, and when I hit kindergarten, they flunked me. They said I was slow. They basically at the time pretty much called me something else, a not politically correct word anymore, but, and it starts with an M. But they held me back. So when I got to writing, I came out of writing as fun. I started writing poetry because I heard lyrics of songs and I would like the lyrics, and I'd write poetry. So poetry led to stories, and the stories led to books, and the stories, and those things lead. That's why I talk about the evolution of writing, is that you understand when you break it down that way, it doesn't seem so impossible. On Latino Thought Makers, I was interviewing a woman who has published 18 books. And what she does is she has Latinas write their stories. So they'll write one story about their life. And actually what she's doing is very intelligent and very smart. Because if you tell someone, I want you to write a screenplay, or I want you to write a half hour, it short circuits most people. Oh, Lord, I couldn't do that. But the process of writing, what I have discovered, is writing is layers. And writing keeps distilling and distilling and reducing. You know, if you're a chef, you'll understand this concept, reduction. They'll take a pot of seafood, shells, pieces of fish, whatever, and they keep reducing it, and they reduce it, and they reduce it. They may be cooking for a whole day and just bringing it down. So it goes from a you know, 10-gallon pot or whatever it is, and it's finally reduced to about 3 inches at the bottom. There's the flavor. Then you can add cream, you can add wine, you can add it, and you're now making a verre blanc sauce. So it's about reducing, and that's kind of what writing is putting out as much as you can, filling that pot, and then reducing it. And once you do that, you discover all these nuances and flavors and richness in the work. What, you know, everyone's doing is in the end doing that. But at the same time, when Jackie's asking these Latino women write one story, and there's only so many words, it actually gives them a sense of calm. I can see it. I've met these women, and I went to one of their events, and I saw how proud they were that they wrote their story, how empowering it was for someone to write their story. You know, secondly, empowering when people listen to their story or read their story. When I was in school, I flunked, and the teacher, they basically were to, you know, counted me out. It was La Mesa in San Diego. And one teacher took me aside and said, hey, why don't you tell your story and I'll write it down. And she made these little books, you know, that they were done with cardboard and cloth, and she would make books and I'd tell my story. And the first book I wrote was a book called The Colored Boy. It was about a kid that changed every color in the world and no one knew how to be prejudiced against him. It was every color. And an alien comes down, you know, it was my elevator pitch. Alien comes down and says to the boy, you know, in my planet, color is honored. The more colors you are, and the more colors and shades you are, the more honored you are. the more people are amazed by you, and they're proud of you, and they're happy for you, because it's something beautiful to have colors. Now, when you think about it, that's a Mexican American little boy at 9 years old or 8 years old, I think it was, coming up with the concept of the colored boy. What did it mean? So now I didn't know what it meant, but years later I read it and I was like, it was a powerful story. It's a powerful story that a kid thought about color and how important that was, and how what it meant, and how either it was used against you or for you, and how we could celebrate color. And that kind of became my whole life, was always celebrating color, and always looking at people and seeing the shared humanity. So writing can go from silly, ridiculous body humor to some of the deepest concepts in the world. But when you think about it, isn't the deepest concepts we ever discuss put down simply? Love your neighbor, love your God, be compassionate. The lessons you learned in kindergarten are still good today. Tell the truth, apologize when you offend someone, check in on people, all these 1,000 little things. And I think now during this pandemic, one of the things I've noticed is how much love I've noticed in the world, of people being loving and good to each other. And it's easy. My neighbor is practically my friend now. She puts little things on my well, she is my friend. She puts stuff on my wall. I have to come out and get it, and she keeps her social distance and stuff. But the sense of community that has arisen from this, because for the first time in the world, or one of the first times, there's been the plagues before, but we were taught before this that someone else was our enemy, that the immigrant was our enemy, or the Mexican was stealing our job, or this person was that. And all of a sudden it became a virus, and a virus is everyone's enemy. So we're actually united by something that's unseen, a virus out there. And that's a great concept, because you can think about it, you go, we're also united by things that are unseen. Faith, courage, compassion, all the great things about who we are. And that's why I think the more you write, the more you do this, the more you define your voice, you distill it down to what that voice is. And a lot of times people go, well, if I learn to write, I'm gonna write a screenplay and 1,000 things. That's great. And it can happen. I've experienced it. But at the same time, writing is an act. So if you keep doing it, you also, like any art, begin to feel your own realization of yourself. And that's seen a lot of times through the art you create. I always say it's never me. If someone likes something I've written and go, oh, it's great. Most of the greatest things I've ever written, I honestly tell you, I do not believe they came from me. I hear something and I just write it down, or I get inspired by something, or I see the connections of this world and all the miracles we're in. So that's it. But I didn't mean to go ramble that long. Tony, did you have a question exactly? You think you'd get on mute, Tony?
Thanks. Yeah, that basically answered my question.
Oh, did good. Sometimes I wonder. I used to, a lot of times in classes and stuff like that, I feel I'm downloading something. I'm hearing something, and there's a reason I need to say this, and I'll come out. So it's a little bit on the revelation side, and I think writing is a revelation. What we come up with. Also, with your work, very historical. You're talking about your history, and you telling your history and your experience and stuff in some ways preserving you for generations. It's our way of saying we existed, this is who we felt, and this is what we know. That's why I love, reading plays and seeing that. I read Shakespeare or Chekhov or all these other artists, and I go, there has been no new emotion created. There's nothing like, there's anger, there's hate, there's sex, passion, all these 1,000 things. But I can read it in Shakespeare, I can read it in Chekhov, I can read it in all these different people, but there isn't no new emotion. There just isn't. We have so many keys in the piano of what our humanity is, and that's beautiful. But all those keys, when you put it together and play it, you can play it in numerous forms. And that's what the writing is. So did anyone else get something from this exercise? Oh, I see some chats coming here too. Okay, Giovanni has a question. Giovanni, you have a question? In the Q&A box. Okay.
Hi. Yeah.
Yes, tell me, Giovanni, what's the question?
She moved.
She moved?
Is she in? I
I'm
moved
here.
her. There she
Okay,
is.
Giovanni.
Hi.
Yeah,
Um,
Giovanni.
so I was just wondering, like, what do people expect of you if you do want to become like a writer? Like, do you need what are they expecting in terms of like to even approach like a representation? Do you need like like several screenplays? Do you need several sketches? Do you need like a pilot? Like, what are they expecting?
Well, yeah, that's a good question, actually. It's a little different. I'll try to see if I can explain this. A writer, a professional writer, tends to be about content. You know, I wrote a 1-hour pilot recently, and I thought it was good. And I think next class, I'm gonna basically ask people, do you want to see kind of the process of either a 1 hour or a half hour, and you tell me which one you want, and whatever the one is, that I'll put it on screen and we'll discuss it. So I wrote a 1 hour, and here I have this 1 hour I really liked. The pandemic happened, and I was about to be signed by this major agency. We're gonna go out with it. All these 1,000 things happened, and so I went, okay, well, now we have pandemic, you know, COVID, all that stuff, and everything shut down. Netflix shut, although next week I'm pitching, but on the whole, most everything shut down. So I'm in a meeting the other day with all these major Latino people in the entertainment industry. You know, I was very honored they include me because they said I had my own voice. We talked about a lot of things, but one of the women there was this producer. I've always admired her work. And so we both in it. So we got in the chat, and I was like, hey, we should talk sometime. She goes, yeah, we need to talk. And then it came up. I said, well, you know, I got this script. I really think it's good, and I'm really proud of it. And I would love you to read it. And she said, sure, I'd love to read it. And I said, well, it's about a Californian history, 1851. And at that time, there were a lot of Mexicans who were actually Black. You know, a lot of Mexicans who came to California, something like 40% or something, were actually Black and Latino. You know, if you look at the picture of Pio Pico, the governor, he's a Black man. You know, and they would talk about that. You know, one of the ways they sexualized Latinas and felt that they were loose, if you will, is Latinas could own property. That wasn't true of English common law. It was true of Spanish colonial law. So when the takeover happened, we still could keep part of our laws. And so women own property. Also color, all those things. When Mexico became free of Spain, they abolished slavery before the Americans did. And Cinco de Mayo happened. It was, if that battle had not gone to the Mexicans, the French would have taken over Mexico a year earlier or something like that. And they would have joined the South in the Confederacy to help the Confederacy, because France had plenty of slave plantations themselves. So if they hadn't done that, the war might have changed. So it's really fascinating. So you see these little combinations and stuff. So I'm telling her all this, and she goes, oh my God, my father was a history teacher in Mexico, and he wrote a book called La Reina de the Queen of California. And the name of the queen was Khalifa. And she goes, I can't wait to read this. So to answer your question, opportunity comes where someone wants to read your stuff and goes, you know, I want to read that. So if you know, Giovanni, you're Latina or Filipina, or I'm not sure, because you can't tell me. Yes.
I'm Filipino, but Filipinos were colonized by Spain. My dad's from Portugal, or like my dad's family's from Portugal.
Yeah.
My mom's family is super Filipino.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, and guess what? Filipinos were the ones who stood with Mexicans in the fields with Cesar Chavez, and are very much part of our culture. And yes, Spain did colonize the Philippines. So you're the Asian Mexicans, as they would say.
They said the Filipinos are the Latinos of Asia.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
No, they really are. I mean, there was a Joe Coy talked about, you know, he gets up there and he talks about Filipinos and Mexicans, and it's hilarious. It's very great. So yeah, so if someone said, hey, you know, I'm looking for a story about a Filipina, and there's ones, I think one's coming out recently, or they're planning it. Then you go, okay, I need a writer for that. And they may look at you and go, oh, Giovanni, she's young. She's probably doesn't have a Writers Guild card. Well, you know something? I would like her on staff. Because I don't feel I can tell this story without a Filipina there. And more producers are thinking that way, that
Okay.
we can't tell your story without you there. So
But what would they ask for?
they would ask, I'll tell you exactly what they'd ask for. This is normally it.
Okay.
They would go, do you have a half hour? So, okay, they want to read something that you wrote so they understand your style.
Okay.
Or if you can simply write a professional script.
Okay.
You know, someone approached me today, they wanted me to write a screenplay for them. And they said, you know, we don't know your work as well. We've heard great things about you. Could I read something that you've written? And I've been in this business a long time. I'm like, oh, really? Okay, I'll do that. It didn't bother me because I was like, oh, this is a screenplay. Take this one. Oh, this is one. And now I'm getting a body of work where I can go, this one's an urban dramedy in Chicago, which ended up being Nothing Like the Holidays. It was a film with Alfred Molina and Jay Hernandez and John Leguizamo. I was the writer. So I can show them that. I just finished a film for Melissa Joan Hart, set in Mexico. Here, take a look at this. That's kind of what, as a professional writer, you want to start having material that you say, take a look at this.
Okay.
The reason I'm trying to demystify it is that instead of going, oh my God, how can I ever do that? You can. You just got to do one. And then you do one, you can do another. Because they're not expecting you, being at your age, to go, well, Giovanni, she's had 10 novels that she's written, 4 screenplays, 5 half hours, and she was staff. They're not gonna,
Okay.
they would look at you like a freak. Like, how in the hell did this girl do that? Oh my God. Was she a genius as a child? So the expectation of you is going to be different. If I walk in the room, the expectation is I go, oh yeah, Nothing Like the Holidays. Well, it did about 8 million, 7.5, whatever. And they go, well, I don't know, 8 million. This guy's film did 40. And I can go, well, it was put out December 11th. It was the worst time to put out any film. I competed against every blockbuster. It did almost 8 million, which is great. And then, and you can do that too. But that's the picayune things that people throw at you. There's always someone better than you or worse. So don't worry about that stuff. So if you sit there and say, well, what they'd expect you as a professional writer, if we go, oh, it's a sketch comedy show. Let's see a sketch packet. So that means you would say, here's 5 sketches I wrote that are really good. Now, if that leads to a job, they go, we want to see Giovanni to come in the office and pitch us some more ideas. My first sketch writing job was that. They Living Color, the way I got it, it sounds like a million years ago. I had done a play called Latins Anonymous. It was, simple structure. It was a takeoff. It's like, hi, my name's Rick. I admit I'm a Latino. I first realized I'm Latino when I was 9 years old. I told my mom I was going to play with the Mexican kids down the street. And she said, you are Mexican, so you can stay home and play with yourself. But I got bored with it. And so I'm doing this and it became a very funny monologue. And it did well. The play did over 1 million in ticket sales, something like that. And I wrote it with the other members of Latins Anonymous. There was about 4 of us, or 4 counting me. So there's auditions, and I'm auditioning as an actor, not as a writer. And so I'm coming close. And every time I get a call back, oh, this is close. I'm about to get this. This is great. And finally, Keenan goes, we're going to choose the Korean guy. They literally said, do we need the Asians or do you need Latinos? And they said, well, let's go with the Asians first. And then we'll bring in Latino next. And sometimes they used to think that way, and they probably still do. So I came in and he said, after an audition, I auditioned with a monologue. And he said, hey, that monologue, how many people do that? Because 4 guys have come in, that were Latinos, have come in with the same monologue. And I went, well, I wrote it. And he said, what do you mean you wrote it? I go, it's from my play, Latins Anonymous. And he goes, what do you mean? Well, it's at Los Angeles Theater Center right now. What's it done? It's done about 1 million ticket sales because it was done at Borderlands Theater and there's all these different places. And Keenan heard 1 million in ticket sales. That's all he heard. Cause I remember his face. It was like, 1 million in ticket sales? I go, yeah. And those monologues, those guys are performing, I wrote. It's published. You can take a look. I'm not lying. And he said, all right, come in tomorrow and pitch me sketches. And so, true story, I show up and I've got these ideas for sketches, and I've got a published book like Latin's Anonymous, and I've done this. At that time, wow, it sounded like I was a real writer. I had published plays. Wow. And so he goes, make me laugh. That was it. Make me laugh. And there's two large African-American guys behind him, and he's got dark sunglasses. And I started doing a character called Ugly Woman. It's like, I got you. Don't you worry, I got you. I'm doing this thing. I'm pursing my lips. I'm looking terribly, un-PC. And he started laughing. And he just started laughing, and they gave me a job. So, the lesson is be prepared when the opportunity comes. Simple as that. Be prepared when the opportunity comes. Be prepared that you've written a half hour. I would say write a half hour about your family.
Okay.
Because that's your point of view. So if you sat there and said, I'm not Filipina. I don't really know the culture that well. My best friend was Filipino when I grew up in San Diego, but all I remember, rice and fish. A lot of rice, a lot of fish, and his mother was a nurse. So I can go, okay, let's add three like Filipina stereotypes, nurse, fish, rice, always a big pot of rice. It was like amazing. You go there and the rice was in everything. But I also saw a lot of similarities. Mexicans, we like rice too, fish, yeah, all that, the Catholic Church, very Filipino, all those 1,000 things, Filipinas, the service industry in terms of being a nurse, a lot of Filipinas are nurses, so those things. So now you're telling a story about you that is authentic, and I can't take that away from you. I can't walk up and go, Giovanni, that's not how I see Filipinos. I've never been a Filipino, a Filipina. I haven't been you. So you are the expert on you. And that's what I could say to every single writer here. You are the expert on you. And the more you play to that, the better it is, because you can't deny your expertise. Right. If I sat there and said, it's a story, it's a man over 50, he's Latino, he's worked in corporate world, and he's also involved in the arts. Okay, Tony Quintero walks in the door. I've got this script I really love. This is my story I've been through. And I might look at a whole staff and go, I want to have a unknown Filipina on staff, because there's a Filipinos in the store. And I also might want to have an older perspective, because the lead character is a man. So you're looking for people in the room to write for certain characters, and you put certain perspective. One of the shows I was a writer on was East Los High for Hulu. I'm not a woman, and very much a female story. But what I contributed was the male perspective. Because the executive producer, Carlos Portugal, great guy, wonderful, looked at me and said, he's a man with 3 kids. He's going to have a very straight Latino perspective, and I want him in the room. And this woman is a lesbian with her perspective. I want her in the room. And this is, this person's this. So you're trying to get a room, and the most successful shows have a very diverse room. So you are in that category when it starts off, where people will give you a chance.
Okay.
They'll look and go, yeah, why not? But you have to have the opportunity. So that's why I'd say write a half hour, because a half hour is not impossible. You can do that. But just make it sure it's about you.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And do we have anyone else having a question? Okay, we'll give us a couple of quick tips of what makes a great pitch. Okay, Hector is asking me, will you give us
Saludos, Rick.
Hey, it's Hector there. Yes, what you're saying, okay, that's cultural intelligence. Yeah, it's true. Yvonne Hanks said that's great. This is cultural intelligence. You have a cultural intelligence that I cannot bring. Cultural intelligence is a woman, cultural intelligence is a Filipina, and the cultural intelligence of being a woman of color that has so many shades. There is no pure Mexican, guys. There is none. My mother was raised in Boone, Iowa, very Mexican. Still from Boone, Iowa. We all are every different shape. So I think this is stuff that's our power, our question. Now, Hector has a question, what makes a great pitch? Which is a very good question, Hector. Are you on? Can I hear you?
Yep, I'm in.
Okay.
I'm here. Yep.
I would say normally with a pitch, love the story. It sounds weird to say that, but that is truly part of a great pitch.
So not being centered around the character per se, more story driven.
Well, love. I mean, if you sat there and said, "What's like?" Honestly, what's would you say is one of your favorite movies?
Well, I mean, we can go something simple. New Hope, episode 4, right? Star Wars. You know, character being naive, looking to break away from the bonds of his past. You know,
Okay, so
Tatooine. You know, and seeing the sunset, and so very simple.
okay, so your favorite story is Star Wars, right? Was it Star Wars?
Right.
Okay, Star Wars, and the episode is, or was the movie or the episode?
Yeah, just episode. New Hope, the first Star Wars, 1970.
First Star. Okay, great. I think I probably saw that myself exactly when it came out. So I'm old enough to say that. What'd you love about it?
It was, fighting, yearning to be something greater than you,
Yeah.
or are, that
Okay.
you're born, right?
So if I approach that using this, that your excitement is, I saw this movie and the movie inspired me, Star Wars, you all know that film, but I saw it as a kid in a movie theater and I looked and I saw Luke Skywalker living on a planet, being a farmer, all that stuff. And he felt something was inside him that was greater than who he is. There's some calling he had. He wanted his corner of the sky. He believed it. There was something missing in his life that he could really be somebody. And that was me. That was me growing up in such and such. And that was me. And I love that character. And this story I'm about to tell you, it was inspired a lot from my childhood and watching Star Wars. Imagine this. Now you're telling the story. But you see how I'm telling the story? I'm relating it to me. I'm relating to why. Because whenever someone tells a story, they're excited. Truly. When someone sits there and goes, I'm going to tell a story, they tend to get excited about the story. My father was the best at that. He would come see, thank you. That's my sweet daughter bringing me almonds. That's so sweet. Thank you. Thank you. But the excitement my father had when he saw stories, he'd come back and tell me, like, he'd go, I saw this movie, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Wow. And he would tell me the story. And when I'd see the movie, I was always disappointed because it wasn't as good as he said. So a big part of pitching your story is your own honest excitement of the story. When people tell you a film or a TV show, they'll bring up one aspect and they'll go, oh man, I just watched the Goldbergs. It was so funny and so good. I remember, and then they're telling the story. If I sat there and went, oh, I love Office Space. It was so great. There's this guy, and one day he's there and he's living this boring life, and he has this boring girlfriend, and he's basically working in an office, like most of America. And he dreams for something more. He wants to do something more. This is the character. Now I'm saying the character. Now I'm saying this. Now I'm getting to the story. And as I'm pitching, I'm telling a story. And that's what you're doing when you're writing. You're doing the exact same thing, but now you're doing it in a pitch. Your excitement, personal excitement of your story should be big. I'll tell you why. If you're excited, I'm excited. I've also had people tell me stories that are wonderful and they're excited. And then I read the screenplay and I'm terribly disappointed. That also happens. But boy, were they excited. And their excitement made me want to read it. So I would say, love your story, get excited about it, and relate it to yourself, because to pitch is almost the other side of writing, which is to perform. Remember I said earlier that writers either write to be read or performed. Now there's a performing side of you is telling the story excitedly and great. And I don't care who it is. If it was Spielberg telling Jaws that story, he would be excited.
All right, so this must be okay. So so this could be a dumb question, but what's the difference between a log line and the premise? Or they're just very similar?
Well, using the theory of distillation, I just made that theory up. The theory of distillation is A log line is normally something very quick to explain it. You know, if you said, what's a log line for Breaking Bad? You know, it can be simple. I mean, in the old school days, they would go, you know, the log line for Alien? Jaws in space.
There you go. Yeah.
Got it. Log line. This is it. You know, then next comes the other expanding. Jaws in space. Imagine an alien that is on a ship. These people have gone to this planet and they start to discover this alien figure. But after a while, their friends start to die. Now they're trying to fight for survival. Jaws in space. And then you go into the act. Okay, first act. This is going to happen. Second act. This is the story. This is the plot. Right there. When you do it professionally, sometimes you have to learn not to sell too much. You know, I did that. I remember selling a show to NBC one time, and I came in. One of the best pitchers in the world was Ben Silverman. He actually later on went to run NBC. And I started pitching the story. It's about this. It's about this, and I'm going on and on. And I was doing everything right, and he goes, "Thank you. Okay, guys, good. Talk to you later. Thanks a lot." And he cut off my pitch. So I leave, and I go out the side with him. I go, I had a lot more to say, and he goes, "You sold it." And I said, "What do you mean I sold it?" He goes, "I saw it in their eyes. They bought it. You were done. If you would have kept talking more and more, they'll think of reasons why not to buy it. They've now bought it." So there's that subtle art later on, maybe, where you go, "Hey, am I done with the pitch? Did they get it? No problem. I'm walking out the door." You know, it's pitching to a lot of people.
Not revealing all your cards that hook yearning for them too.
You don't, yeah, you want people to ask questions and want more. You know, if I'm saying, you know, look how we get in the worlds, you know, you name off your favorite show. If you sat there and said, "Oh, it's Game of Thrones." Wow, Game of Thrones, what's that about? It's a place that almost resembles the medieval times, but it's magical. It's a place where giants still exist, where dragons fly. You know, you start to tell a story. It's an amazing place with different kingdoms. And there's a woman, her name is Cersei, and she's sold to a warlord, and he's like a brood mare. And then you tell her story, and you're going stories, and you're going on this and this and this, and it's exciting, and people get into it. And that's where you're a storyteller. And that's fundamental of being a writer, is being a storyteller, beginning, middle, and end. Next question.
Thank you.
Sure. Cool animation behind you.
Oh yeah, it's the Special Hero book.
Oh,
Yeah,
did you do that?
yeah. It's I do the graphic novels.
Oh my God, this is so
Yeah.
cool. See, talk about opportunity. I've always looked for a guy who could do a graphic novel. Of one of
No,
my
you know, we
characters.
actually spoke through the phone.
Wait.
Remember, we talked about.
Are you in Texas?
Yeah. We talked.
Okay, all right, good. Okay, it's cool. So is this being helpful to you?
It has, yeah, definitely. You know,
Oh,
and
good.
I'm very familiar with some of the books.
John Truby's Troy Strike. Yeah, he's great. All these guys are great. I mean,
Yeah.
the truth about writing. Oh, great.
Yeah.
Oh, that's there. It's basically you're taking this in to reinterpret it. I've done John Truby, I've done Robert McKee, all stuff. I've had great writers around me all my life, and everyone will always tell you, find your story. But this is stuff because as artists, we go, "Oh, John Truby said this. I didn't get that before. Oh, this is great. Robert McKee said this. Oh, this person said that." The truth is, we all are part of the puzzle. We are not the final say. You, the artist, are the final say. You, the artist, has to give us your interpretation. And it's great to take from people and go, you know, I take a lot from theater, and
Right.
so you take from that world, and you're reimagining it. And like I said to Giovanni, you're from Texas. Look, you're writing a character who's set on the border. You know,
Right.
So I go, I'm from San Diego. You think I wouldn't write a character from the border? I grew up 15 miles from the border. If Sarah Palin said you could see Russia, I could see Tijuana every day. It was not difficult. So take your stories, and that's really great. You're taking your stories.
No,
So-
yeah, you know, and it's been definitely an experience myself as a writer, you know, especially myself focusing in the sequential art, comic book
Mhm.
medium, you know, and there's a lot of similarities, of course,
Very much.
you know, screenwriting and doing a comic book script. And so, I mean, I've published 10. I've had a lot of great success, especially in Latino media. You know, Univision, Telemundo. You know, I was on American Way magazine last year, and NBC Latino, and so, you know, like you said, that's what the question I asked you. You know, the importance of, you know, how the important parts of a pitch. You know, so what makes a great pitch? And you said very story driven. You know, and so, I mean, one of my hooks, you know, when I talk about my series, you know, I said about, you know, it's a story about family, loyalty, betrayal, and redemption, you know, set along the background of the cartel war in Southwest Texas and North Mexico, you know, dealing with real issues of immigration. And so, you know, and it's something a lot of folks relate. And so,
that's great, because it's what you're saying is true. It's like you go, I mean, all storytelling basically is, you've never heard this story before. It's amazing. That's it. So look at, it's a story. It's about a man. He wants to kill a whale. He's going to kill this whale no matter what it takes. He'll drive his men to the ends of the earth to kill this whale. The whale is Moby Dick.
right.
You know, simple.
Yeah.
It's everything it is. It's the love of what you're telling is always so important, because the excitement of being a storyteller, because that's what happened. It goes back to the days when we were in the cave and someone, you know, around the fire described the hunt, you know, oh, this person came, you know, all that stuff, but they described it, and the people, the audience was in rapture, and the storyteller and the audience were like one, and they went on this journey with the storyteller.
Right.
So that's what
all
you
about
do.
that feeling. How do you make it feel?
Well, the feeling is, first of all, you have to believe in it.
Okay.
You know, a lot of times for writers don't have the excitement that performers have. I got to tell you, some of the shows I've ever worked on, writers hated me because I could tell a story well. They would be like, well, in this story, the character finds redemption in many ways. And so I know the executive is going, oh my God, please. You know, so the writers can get in the way of their work. And I think a simple thing is be excited about what your story is.
Right.
Be excited.
Awesome.
And that's part of calling you guys saying I'm a writer is so important. Because once you start to say that, it's slightly giving yourself much more confidence. If you're a writer, the writers are storytellers. So, and one thing you have going that most people don't have is the visual, the storyboard. You know,
Right.
Film is visual. So when you've already set up your characters, you've got the guy crashing through the walls, and look at the guy behind you and standing strong and all. There's visuals that shortcut the story. It's a visual medium. So
Right.
that's why you have actually a real ability to do that. So that's why I'm excited always. And I think sometimes Latino stories are so visual, and also some of the best stories are simple. A lot of people don't like to hear that.
Right. I mean, it goes back to the famous codex, right? The Aztec.
Yeah. I mean, all stories. You know, we can go with you know, writers that talk about imagery and stories and all those things. It's there. I mean, when you read these books, the truth is you have to forget those things after a while. You guys will go forget what I've said, but it might remind you that something you realized. I am just a catalyst to your creation. That's why I don't go, you know, I'm not teaching you to write like Rick Nahara. I'm teaching you to write like you, because that's so much more interesting to me. I know me. I got it. My problem is not explaining it well to people sometimes, but tell your story. Does that answer what a great pitch is?
Yes. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, no.
Who next? Anyone else? I guess this is good. Good. So, let me look down below. Wow, 16 participants. This is fantastic. So many people. It's so great. So I'm looking for questions. Okay. What do you? Yeah, I think I answered that one. What do you need? A full-time script. Okay. So next week, what we're going to do is I'm going to get all you guys' emails, and I'm going to invite you to a writer duet script that I have. And I'll put on writer duet, and we'll go over it. You know, I know my managers are like, don't show your material. You know, they were terrified. And I trust you guys not to show something that hasn't been bought before, just because people love to be the first to read something. So, I know we'll take a part for it. So what I need to know from everyone by a show of hands or on the Q&A, what would you rather see? A half-hour show or a 1 hour show? Let's see. Okay. Okay, Rosie Cruz, I keep dropping up my Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi sucks. Yes, it does. Okay, Patricia wants a half hour, which is 30 minutes. Possibly 1 hour. Okay, we got a few of those. Okay, the half hour is called Going Green. It's about a half hour is a story set in San Diego. Yes, Going Green is a comedy. The 1 hour is not a comedy. The 1 hour is about 1851, two strong women that have to bond together to survive in a time when of great turmoil in California, when there was a transition between the Mexican and the American taking on over a state, and all the things that come out of that. And two women from two different cultures that have to learn to work together, who don't necessarily like each other in the beginning. Okay, probably an hour, but a half seems more attainable. Okay, Diana Jackson, you're on catch up for the class. 1 hour drama. Okay, so far I got a lot for 1 hour drama. A lot for 1 hour drama. Okay, so far looks like 1 hour drama is winning. I'll put it on Writer Duet, and I'll invite you guys to it so you can, you know, see the process, and hopefully I will get it to you before the class. I will do that before the class, so you will all have a 1 hour to look. Don't give it out to anyone. This is exclusively for you guys. It's a 1 hour drama set in 1851. You know, I'm also curious what you guys say, because to tell you the truth, you know, as much as I say, you know, I accept my fear. That's one thing about being, are we back next week? I thought tonight was the last class. No, I think we have one more class. This will be the link. So we'll end with that. We'll end with that, and I will do my part for the pandemic, because I promised to do something for free to take our minds off all this stuff. And this will be a link for us. Yes, a link for us. And I'm not terribly worried that someone's going to steal it and go out and put millions of dollars to produce a 1 hour pilot, and then put a staff together and create more episodes and run for 5 years. And eventually I sue you and say, I wrote that. It's not that at all. I just want to keep it respectful of my manager to not show too much work. So that's that. Anyone else? Jay Hernandez. Juan Hernandez. Sorry, I knew a guy with Jay. Juan, do you have a question?
Say, I was actually just going to say a half hour would be great. I accidentally hit the wrong button. That's all.
Okay. All right. Half hour is great. So I'll find out through a show of hands by the time what it will be. But lips and eyes are sealed. Thank you. No worries. This will be a link for us, thieves. I meant there's one more class. Yes, there's one more class. I believe there's our final class. You know, I'm sure I'll do this again. And I think the people that were here, I hope you got stuff out of it. I think it was important. Simple lessons really are some of the most powerful, I find. Lips and eyes are sealed. Okay, questions and answers. Any more questions? Okay. Tony said half hour. One half hour. The two, one comedy, one the drama. Yeah, half hours tend to be comedies, although certain half hours are dramedies, like East Los High was a dramedy. So that was more of a half hour. And then it's changing where half hours do work. And then you have Quibi, which is 10 minutes. So can we get it earlier than Thursday? Yes, Tony, I will get it earlier than Thursday. Okay, so now I want to open it up. Any more questions? And I mean, like, ask me anything, because I look at this way and go, this is a great thing about this. I'm accessible. I'm the easiest guy to find. MrRickNahara@gmail.com, you know, rnahara, you know, all those kind of things. My phone number is the same I've had for, I don't know how many years. They would tell you what it is. Rick Yeah, just two. Rick, 1213 500 Rick 7425. They actually gave me that. So 500 Rick. So, but you'd be surprised how many people never ask me questions. That's why I like this, where people can actually ask a question and I can talk about it. That's why I do Latino Thought Makers, that people can see people, ask them questions, because I believe that all knowledge should be free and should be available. Allow people to grow. I mean, if there was tuition-free colleges, I'd probably be pretty happy about it. I know it sounds weird to say that, but knowledge should be free. Whether someone takes that opportunity and does something with it, that's another ball game, another story. But that's what I believe. So I'm looking down here. Okay, so great. So no last questions? All right.
I had a question.
Yes, Shirley.
Well, why are seems silly, but why are dramas an hour and comedies a half hour?
Well, I think,
Why is
truthfully,
that? Sorry, go ahead.
well, it's speed. Comedy tends to be quick. Drama tends to be, drama is the slow slog to death. You wake up, how you doing? You see the guy go to the 7-Eleven, clock in the back, goes out there. It's a little slower. We're allowed to see characters and intricacies that most people don't see. Comedy tends to be quick. So characters you see, they walk in the door. It goes back to Commedia dell'arte. It was a braggadocio. How many times you see the older man trying to pick up the younger girl? It's like, why is that happening? He's never going to get her. But that's Moliere. Imagine an Invalid, which comes from Commedia dell'arte. So a lot of times comedy tends to be quicker. And in a half-hour comedy, you can sit there, enjoy it, and be done within a half hour. People invest more in a movie and a 1-hour drama because it's more cinematic. Half hours tend to be almost like stage plays, and you enjoy it, and it's a half hour and it's done. You got it. And now through the art of binging, which most people do, they'll watch a half hour of Friends, they'll stay and watch another one, they'll stay and watch another one. And there's a whole theory in communication that the way we get our entertainment, it depends on our mood. So if you're in a sad mood, you may want a sadder song to see someone be miserable, because sometimes it hurts so good. If it's an upbeat song and you want to feel good and celebrate your life, you're going to hear a different kind of song. So we're choosing our entertainment through our mood. We're much more involved in the actual taking our entertainment, whereas before, audiences were seen as a massive mob that somehow we entertained or we gave propaganda to or we were controlling. Later communications theories saw television a little bit more benign or not powerfully harmful. So we've gone through, I'm taking communication, I'm studying this. So it was really unique for me to work in the business because I could see, oh yeah, I saw that. I've talked to that guy. Yeah. So half hours tend to be quicker pace. Look at sketch comedies. One sketch is 3 minutes. 3 minutes. You don't even go past 4 half the time. It's really funny, great. You got it. Moving on. Let's name off. Let's ask you guys. What's your favorite sketch? Does anyone have a favorite sketch? I'm curious about this. Favorite sketch? Anyone? Let me look at the Q&A. We'll go to chats. Okay, Dave Chappelle. Okay, what sketch from Dave Chappelle did you like? Hector? Okay, I'll give it one. Blind racist. Yeah, everyone loves blind racist. So if you, yeah, sure. Okay, so if I sat there and said, Dave Chappelle, one of my favorite sketches was with Joe Rogan. It was, they had it's the character Dave Chappelle does, this crackhead, which seems to be the character they had in Living Color, Homie Don't Play That. So these are certain archetypes that are going throughout entertainment. So yeah, the Fear Factor one. It was this Tyrone Biggs or something, that was the name of the character. And I have to always be careful because, it's not my culture. So I want to be respectful. Tyrone Biggs. He does Fear Factor, and they go, here's elk penises, you know, and he's eating the elk penis. It's nothing compared to what I've had before, and there's just something about it. Like he's going through hot coals. He's doing the exact Fear Factor thing, and nothing bothers him. You know, people throw worms on him in a big bed, and he falls asleep. Oh, that nap now? It's really great. And there's certain triggers in that comedy that make us laugh. What makes us laugh is this guy who doesn't, you know, who is not bothered by Fear Factor. It's like, oh, that's it. I remember in culture class, a show at Fox, one of the sketches I wrote was about a border Olympics where people were crossing bridges and climbing walls and all that stuff, and people really loved it. But normally they're about 3 to 4 minutes. And if you can get that and you can keep an audience for there to watch it, they know inherently another show's going to happen. They know inherently through a half hour that you watch this scene, it's funny, it's great, another scene. But underneath the scene of a half hour is a plot, the beginning, middle, and end. But even in the sketch, there is a plot, a beginning, middle, and end in the sketch as well. So it's, like I said before in the class, it starts with something little, gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And that becomes either a half hour, 1 hour, screenplay, whatever. But it starts normally small. So I'm not asking actors or writers to write a lot. Like even with Giovanni, I said, write a half hour. Totally doable. You can do it. I can coach people to write a half hour. I know I can. I've done it. But a half hour is only so many pages, and it's not quite incredibly hard. You can plan that a little bit easier for people to go, here's your cold open, here's your opening, here's your first scene. You know, we're discovering the characters. Here's your second scene. Oh, here's the problem. Uh-oh, this happens here. Once we know the character, oh, here's the problem. Here's the escalation of the problem. Something bad is happening. Then here's something no one expected. So-and-so showed up. Oh, the problem's gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. And sometimes they'll use a term of put a clock on it. If you sat there, and I wrote a show called Sweet 15 about a quinceañera gone wrong. The clock to put in there was, oh my Lord, the bad guy's coming here. And we got to run. No, I'm not going to run. I want a quinceañera for my daughter. I'm staying. Escalation till final, you know, resolve. So those things are like quick things to put in. Now, like I said, I'm not saying you'll be the greatest writer there is. I'm not saying all these different things, but if you follow those formulas, you'll get a structure. And then it's the rewrite. It's the rewrite. And the rewrite you may do now, and I will tell you this, I have sold things that I wrote 20 years ago, and I forgot about them. You know, I have a pitch I'm going out with that, truthfully, most people don't know this. I thought this up years ago. I just forgot it. And one day I was looking at some of my notes, and I was like, oh yeah, it's a cool story. Oh, I should write that. And bam, that's the inspiration. So good. All right, anyone else have anything? Okay, so next week, let me see who else. I'm looking at these questionnaires, and I'm getting used to working this thing too. So I see questions open 14. I can make sure everyone's on here. It's kind of, I've actually enjoyed this class because I like to be more philosophical, and I don't want it to be one of those classes. It's like, if you do this, and page 15, this should happen here, and page 30, you know, they have those courses and they're great, and I'm sure they're fine, but a lot of times, knock away the fear of writing, knock away the reasons not to write. This is a big part of it, and the reasons to keep writing. Skit where Chong plays blind Melon Chillin. Yeah, I know those guys, Cheech, and would tell me how these stories came about, you know. Okay, here's a question. How do you organize your writing? Elena, great question. I would say normally I have horrible ADHD. So a lot of times I need to write something to remember. I forget immediately. And this is just because, you know, people know me. I had that horrible brain injury and was in a coma and all that stuff. So I literally, I don't admit this to many people, sometimes have trouble with memory, still today. And so it's because of that, I was trained in some ways to write down immediately if I think of an inspirational thing. So first of all, write down the inspiration. Write down the thing. And a lot of times the inspiration comes when you wake up in the morning. Or before you fall asleep at night. Write that question down. Oh, Elena, you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, good. Okay, I'm seeing you here.
I don't.
But
Let me
I,
see.
I see a picture of you having a beautiful cup of coffee on a
Oh, I didn't.
beautiful valley.
That's so funny. I don't know how to put on my. Usually there's
Oh,
like a video.
maybe you put on, is it not stop video? I think you hit mute, but
Bottom
okay.
left, unmute.
Bottom left on mute. Okay.
I got it. Hi.
Got it. Hey,
Hi.
Elena. Yeah, it's there. Where's your mask?
It's right here, but nobody's here.
Okay.
Look.
Oh, good. All right. Well, you're being very responsible. What city you're in?
San Francisco.
Ah, nice. I went to school there, American Conservatory Theater.
Oh, I'm from New York though.
Yeah, I was in New York too. I love that place. So the question is, how do you organize yourself? That was your question. Okay.
And like, do you use a particular program? Because I'm writing, but I'm using like Google Docs, and I'm like trying to figure out what's the best, most efficient way. And that was a good tip about the inspiration. Do you always keep a notebook? Like that's the kind of thing. Sometimes I tape it on my phone as well. Like I'm like, oh, that's a good idea, and I'm like telling, writing to myself that way. But I have problems like, getting it all together.
Well, say it like this. I'll do, and I'll show you guys what I do. I wrote, the amazing thing about having a telephone is you've got a little thing here called, at least on my telephone, I don't know, maybe anyone has it. It's called notes. You see notes right there? No, I'm trying to put down here. There's a yellow thing that says notes right there, notes. Okay, so now you look in the notes out of curiosity. Oh, this is a very personal note, so I'm going to move that one away. Let me see. Yeah, because a lot of times I'll write whatever hits me. If I'm mad or whatever, it goes down in here. And because there's moments I get lucid. I after, having literally a coma and 2 brain surgeries, it's amazing how I'm able to put life together, which says a lot. But that, but I have to do it immediately. So I'll write down, I'm writing this. I go, Chinese stereotypes, study, smart, really, and I'm going, those are great stereotypes to have. They're constantly studying. They're very smart. They're, I'm thinking there's certain cultures that come with good stereotypes. So that's the premise. And, okay, I just wrote a thing about I do ancestry.com, and I go, if I do ancestry.com, what do they find out I was a serial killer? they put my DNA somewhere. Oh my God. And I'm writing this and I go, oh, I don't remember killing half those people. For real? I'm a serial killer? And then finding out, oh my God, I'm not Mexican, which is the worst thing than being a serial killer. I'm not Mexican. I was getting racism for all the wrong reasons. And I write, I tell my kids, which side is talking? Is that your evil white side or your Mexican side? So I'm talking about my kids that are biracial. So now these are just quick little, premises. Okay. I did a Showtime special where it's called Diary of a Dad Man. I talk about my kids, just talked about them. So another thing is a lot of times when I'm with my children, I'll write something that they do. My kids, first of all, do not listen to me. They are very, very, dismissive of me. I hate to say it. I like times when I'll talk to my kids. I'll be on stage and I'll applause and people love me and all that stuff. And I'll come off and I'll say a joke and they'll go, that's horrible. And I'm like, people paid $40 for that. And how dare you say that? So I'll play with it. So the new joke for my son I wrote here was, my son is too large now. He's now a big kid. He's like a teenager. And I go, I'm intimidated by him a little bit. I wish I had beat him as a child, because he would be scared of me. But I was so nice to him that now I'm scared of him. So instead of telling him what to do, I merely have to suggest. It's like, son, it'd be nice if you took the trash out. So I'm suggesting, then I can go back to my father who would tell me something and I would do it immediately. So then it becomes a whole monologue or discussion about the differences in parenting. With my parents, the Mexicans, I had a guy call me up today who's Mexican, and he goes, and he works, he's a producer, he's pretty well known. He works with some really famous people. And he's like, Rick, I'm gaining so much weight. I go, what do you mean? He goes, My wife makes them 5 different breakfasts. It's like, oh, you want cereals? You got cereal, you got fruit, all this stuff. And afterwards, they only wanted cereal. And I have all this food, so I'm eating it all because I don't want food to be wasted. And he goes, when I was a kid, they made 1 meal and that was it. It was like, guess what you're having? Chilaquiles or whatever it was. It was 1 meal. It wasn't like, that sounds great, Mom. I'd really prefer to have crepes and you should make me some crepes. It's like, for him, the concept of ordering food and asking your parents to make you different kinds of food was so alien to him. But to our kids now, my kids understand Grubhub. They understand that they can, my kid goes to a very nice private school. And I keep getting messages. He needs more money in his account. I'm like, what? He needs more money. He's down to like $2,500 or something. He needs more money in his account. And I'm like, is he walking in and paying for everyone's lunch in that cafeteria? Is he taking friends to lunch? How expensive is this place? So writing down those things become inspiration for issues that you're thinking about, and that'll help you write them better. So the organizing part normally is first, write the inspiration. And then secondly, go into the depth of the inspiration, and third, don't, if you hear those things, I could get busted on a lot of what I've just said, stereotypes. So what, you good? Is that your evil white side talking? Of course I would never think that, but it's a joke. It's like going, it's like, what kind of parent is, I said another thing was like, man, these kids are so selfish. It's like, oh, I want to get fed. Oh, I want this. I'm like naming off all those things that they should get, but I'm acting like it's selfish. So a lot of times it's playing with those things like on a keyboard and a piano, and don't censor it. Don't censor it. You'll need to censor later because, in this world, I have to be careful what I say half the time because it can be misinterpreted. If you know me, I have a great heart and I love people. So I would never say something bad. I tend never to do jokes about people's weights or things they can't change, just attitudes mostly. So that's what I'm saying. Organize it that way. Write down your inspiration. Write down what you're thinking. That way you don't forget it and keep going back to it and keep adding and adding and adding. That's the beginning of organizing. Does that answer your question?
I also want to know if you use a certain electronic notebook that you recommend or not.
Whatever. I would say this. I'm not very electronically oriented. You're in San Francisco, Silicon Valley. All those things are way up there. There's my kids are good at that stuff. I like a notepad because I do it. Or I like, back in the old days, I would actually walk around with a small tape recorder. Mm-hmm. And you can do that with your phone. You can just tape an idea. Do that constantly. It's really more, don't wait for that perfect organizer or that perfect program or that perfect app or all that stuff. It's very simple. Having either a pencil with you or your phone with you, very easy to jot down a note, put it in your pocket, and at the end of the night, look in your pocket when the notes are. That will help you. So when it comes to putting something organized in a screenplay fashion or half-hour fashion, of course, Final Draft, I'm a big fan. Final Draft makes a lot of sense. And the more you learn those things is good. Also read screenplays and read scripts and all that. Now, for many people that are actors and writers, you've been doing that for years, so it's not a new thing. But like I said to Tony, I love those shows where you'll see a scene from an actor and underneath will be the script, which I think is so important because a great actor makes it look like he just made it up. It's a casual conversation. Great stand-up comic too. They're just riffing and thinking ideas. No one knows they've practiced that routine for nearly 5 years, and all over the country. Their job is to make it look like they just thought of it right now, spontaneously. This is amazing. This is my idea. But the writer has to really start to write down the ideas. So tonight you're walking around San Francisco. Go home and write what you saw. Because right now you're in a historic moment. Not till 1918 in San Francisco where they had the plague and they had the big flu. And believe me, it wasn't really the Spanish flu. It wasn't invented in Spain. It was actually from America. Just the Spanish press talked about it. So that's why they called it the Spanish flu. In San Francisco, there was a movement that said the no mask wearing society. And people would get fined $50 or $25 not to wear a mask. And they had a big moment the second, they were into the pandemic for I don't know how many weeks. and a whole group of people got up there and complained about this mask thing, and they didn't wear their mask, and they were out there protesting. And I read that, and I went, that's today. Isn't that today? So you're living in a historic moment. You should go home and write what you're experiencing, write what you're seeing. Be the scribe that talks about what you're feeling, going out in the public and maybe seeing a lot less people. Is the air fresher where you're out there now in San Francisco? So less smog? Should be.
I never noticed the smog to begin with, but
Yeah.
it's definitely quiet. Like these streets, it's almost scary for me. Like I try to go home around this time because I don't like to be by myself. There's nobody out here. I mean, in the more main streets, you'll see people, but like I'm in these back streets, nobody's here.
Yeah.
And that's scary too.
No, it's good. And in that point of scary, see, a lot of times when you talk about compassion, I think it's important. It's like women go through different things than men do. You know, women go, I'm scared. Because why? They should be. You can look at statistics and go, there's so many crimes and so many things that are directed toward women. They have every right to be. So the difference is understanding when a writer who's on staff with me or a woman who's around me, and they say, I want to go out to my car at night, it makes sense to walk them to their car. To have compassion, go, look, I don't want you to worry about anything. I want to be there for you. And I'm sorry that in this world you have to worry about things like that. I'm sorry. So that's compassion. It means understanding. If I see a migrant field worker in the fields and I look at them, I'm driving up to Oxnard and places like that, that's my people to me. You know, that's my people. And I'm seeing them work for America. And I'm hearing other people say, get them out of here and all these thousand things. So it's compassion, but it's also point of view. You have a point of view. So when you write your story, you go, I remember the silence, the fear, all those things which you can feel, and you know, getting home quickly. You know, how primitive is that? That at one time humankind sat there and said, we need to get up in the tree because it's getting to be night, and there's leopards that will kill us, and the fear. And even back Africa today, the Serengeti guys that work with cattle have to get the cattle in around these briars that protect them from lions because it's night. We have a natural fear of night. And as a woman, you have the natural fear of night. It's cover of darkness where anything can happen. You're out there, people may not hear you scream. You don't have it. You know, it's like I'm not walking out to my car with a whistle in my hand or my keys in a, like I've seen women where they have a key like this. And, you know, I don't have that, but I should understand it if I'm going to write about women. So, you know, I think that's what I'm saying is that you're living in a very historical moment. This is the time you write about that. Is that good? You got it? All right, guys. So next week's our last class, and then we can go. I'll get you guys a script. Don't show it to people. I mean, unless they're major producers want to put millions of dollars in any script I've got. But we'll discuss it. It'll either be a half hour, an hour, and we'll kind of go over it and talk about and break down the structure. And then that'll be the class. So no more, yeah, Rosie?
I'm sorry. So we're going to get a script and we're going to have to read it before the next class. Is that what you're saying? I
would suggest to read it because you'll understand it more.
No, yeah. I just wanted to make sure. I thought we were going to look at a script on Writer's Duet, and we're looking at the format. But
yeah, okay. I may do that too. Maybe in Writer's Duet that I'll send you and I'll add you to Writer's Duet to view, so you can do it.
Okay.
But yeah, I think this is a great way to end this the course and looking at an actual script and seeing the structure. And by all means, if you think that's horrible or whatever, please tell me. I'm a professional writer, so I'm used to people either hating my work or loving it, and understanding the person that received it may not have the same experience I have, and I have to kind of take that into it. So I'm always curious what people think of anything I write. A writer, a true writer, knows you are always writing, always a new way to. I wrote a screenplay about 5 years ago, and someone told me how I can sell it, and I'm actually contemplating changing the screenplay. It's about a man who's a teacher goes to a school and teaches them a mariachi program. And the producers were like, Rick, we think it's a great script. Here's the problem. If it's a white man teaching mariachi to Mexican kids. Shouldn't it be a Latina woman teaching mariachi to Mexican kids? I think it's much better, and there's more Latina actors who would jump at it. And I think about it. Here's the problem. The story is about an actual true story about a white man who goes into created a mariachi program in Point Loma High. And it went all over the country, and it's a beautiful story. What he said is writing his notes. I don't have to be German to know Mozart. You know, I don't have to be Beethoven or German to understand Beethoven or wherever he was. All those things, you know, was he? Amadeus, Mozart was, I think he might've been German. I'm not sure. But the whole point is you don't have to be that. I don't have to be Mexican to love Juan Gabriel's song, Hasta que te conocí, because I hear the inherent passion behind it. And passion recognizes passion. We recognize the humanity in someone else. So that's why. Let me see. But, oh, Elena has a question. Elena, do you have a question? Elena has a question. Does Elena still have a question? I got Rosie. Does Elena have a question?
No, that you just answered it. It was about the writing organization and stuff.
Oh. Okay, good. Then, you know, on that note, I think we can end class tonight. I want to thank you all for participating and being part of this. I hope you are gaining less of a fear of writing and seeing it as a process. And when you feel that way, it becomes much more natural. You know, just like I'll tell this, you know, quick story. I would tell actors, don't call it an audition and call it a performance. And people go, well, what does that mean? And you go, simple as that. If it's an audition, if I told you you're going to a job interview, how would you feel? If I say you're going to perform today for these casting directors, it's going to be so much fun. It's going to be great. You're going to laugh and it's going to be fun. Now it's a celebration. Celebration of you. You're relaxed. This is good. If I say you're going to an IRS audit, are you going to a dinner with all your friends? Which one's the better idea? I would have to say dinner with friends. So it's changing the words of certain things to take away the fear. If I go, for me, I was flunked in school. So if someone goes, you have a test, oh, bummer. But if someone goes, hey, they want your opinion. Oh, well, my opinion on algebra is this, and my opinion on that. That's much easier than you now have to prove something. It's a test. So these are little subtle secrets or subtle tricks to get you guys to not see it as something bad or something, an assignment or all those 1,000 things. You have to do the assignments to pass, all that. No, it's about the process, really about the process. And so celebrate the process, do this. Next, we'll come back. I'll have a script to you before to show it, and then we'll discuss it. But I think it's been fun. So anyone else, then in that case, it's good night, everybody. And thank you for being a part of this. Rosie?
Thanks, Rick. I dropped off for a second, but thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Good night.
Good night.